So this week, Group B will be announcing their distributions and paying out. So I have NVDY and PLTY, so we'll take a look at those two. And then we're going to take a look at MSTY and MSTR because they just continually to move up. And of course, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high yet again. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at NVDY and PLTY in Group B because they will be going X this week and pay out on Friday. And then we're going to have to take a look at MSTY and MSTR because they have just been on a nice little run up, all due to the fact that Bitcoin has been running as well. So let's just go ahead and jump right over into the charts and let's take a look at NVDY. All right, so here we are looking at NVDY, and this is the YieldMax ETF that uses NVIDIA as the underlying. So for today, it looks like we had a little bit of a red day, down about 0.15 cents, equates to about 0.89%. So we're sitting at 1669, but look at this candle today. I mean, it was down, it was up, and then closed in the middle. So a big indecision day for NVDY. Looks like it went as low as 1653, as high as 1682, and then of course closed at 1669. We do have a bit of a support right here, and I've got that at around 1649. And then we do have a resistance here around that 1693. It did want to break up above it, but never could stay, and it got pushed right back down. And same thing with this support line. It came down close to that support line and then came back up. Would love to see this one moving on back up as well. But let's flip it over to the adjusted chart and let's take a look at the indicators and the overall momentum of NVDY. All right, so here we are on the adjusted chart, and as you can see here, on that MACD, we are getting a turn down a little bit, right? Which does make sense because we are seeing a little bit of a drop in those candles here, and the volume has been heavy on the red side. So we are tilting down on that MACD. The momentum here is decreasing on that green side, and you can see we are dropping a bit on that RSI. Now if I turn on the Bollinger Band, let's see where it sets in that. There we go. We got the Bollinger Band on. We are still on that upper half of that Bollinger Band. The RSI 2 here, it's still sitting at about a 20. So for me to take a look whether or not I want to buy any more NVDY, it would need to be below the 10 on the RSI 2, and I prefer that candle to be on that bottom half of that Bollinger Band. But of course, that all depends on what my real price per share or my adjusted average price per share is, because if that is lower than what the actual price of NVDY is, then I would not necessarily purchase because that would just increase my adjusted price per share. And I don't necessarily want to do that on these YieldMax or any of these high yield ETFs. But you can see we've had a nice little run up since the distribution here. It has ran up a good bit on that momentum, but since Friday and today, it has tailed off a little. So we'll see what the rest of the week brings, and I'm hoping that we get a nice distribution. Looks like the last one was around 64 cents. So let's move right over to PLTY and check it out. All right, here we are on PLTY. And you can see I had a resistance line up here around this 66.46, and I've got a support line at 61.63. And you can see over here where we have come down and tested this as a previous support line, right? We tapped it here, here. I mean, there's a few times where it is bouncing off of that support line right there until it finally broke below it, and therefore then it became a resistance line. So currently I've got that resistance line at 66.46 with that support line at 61.63, and today we're sitting at 64.39. So we are sitting right there somewhere in the middle of those two. So now let's flip it over to the adjusted chart and let's check out the indicators. All right, here we are on the adjusted chart, and we are showing the Bollinger Band right now, and you can see we are still on the top side of that Bollinger Band up here. I prefer it to be on that bottom side, and that RSI 2 is moving up to 54.3. Now, yes, we do have a red candle today, but it opened and closed higher than it closed on Friday. Friday looks like it was a massive red day for PLTY, but on Monday it did pop back up and opened at 64.49 after closing on Friday at 62.03. But today it did end up closing at 64.39. And you can see the MACD here. We are getting a bit of a cross down. We do have a sliver of that red. We do seem to be wanting to come down, but that MACD is turning up. And that's just mostly because it did pop up even though it was a red day. So hopefully we can continue to move up. And if that's the case, then that MACD is probably going to bounce off of that signal line and start moving back up. And that would be a great sign for PLTY. Now, both NVDY and PLTY will announce their distributions this week. And for PLTY, they paid out $2.44 last time. So we'll see if we can get an even higher distribution this round. It wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. Now let's talk about MSTY. All right, so here we are on MSTY, and you can see we actually had a green day today. We moved 28 cents up from the close on Friday. Now, we do have a red candle, and that's only because it actually closed lower than it opened. But from the close on Friday to the close of today, it did move up 28 cents. So that's a 1.9% move up on MSTY. Now, we were coming up to this resistance line that we were talking about on the last video, and that resistance line being that 1484. And you can see today we did pop up above it, right? It ended up opening at 1511 and as low as 1485. So it did come back down and test that line right there, right? And that's a good thing, that the fact that it did come down, tapped it, but then went back up. That's a great sign at hopefully making this our new support line. But as you know, I prefer a support line to open and close, including the wicks, to be above the previous resistance line, and I prefer a green candle in order for that to signal a breakout above that previous resistance line, and therefore making that the support line. But as you can see, I did draw a little diagonal here, and as you can see, we are trending up in the last few days. Now, nothing is guaranteed, of course, but that is a good sign. And as you can see, those red momentum bars were decreasing, and then we moved over to the green, so we did get a cross. And then since Thursday and Friday, and today being Monday, we are moving up and increasing in that momentum. Now, the volume is still pretty low, right? I prefer more volume so that we can definitely get this thing moving on up. But we'll see what the rest of the week brings. But we're starting off good already. The fact that we are keeping with those higher highs and higher lows as we continue to move up. Now let's flip it over to the adjusted chart and let's get a look at the indicators. All right, here we are on the indicators. And again, you can see that MACD here is separating, and we do have a nice momentum building. The RSI 2 is increasing, so everything is pointing that this is moving on up. But always keep in mind that does not mean that it will continue to move up, as tomorrow it could start moving down. But so far the trend is moving up. One other thing I wanted to take a look at was on the moving average. There we go. We got the moving average turned on. And remember the other day I was talking about Msty moving up and getting close to that MA 200. And we were just underneath that 200. Well, guess what? Today we actually broke through the 200. That 200 is sitting at $14.99. And we closed today at $15.02. Now that is still running through that 200, right? That MA 200. It is not a full candle above it, so we have not necessarily broke that MA200, but the fact that we did open and close above it is a good sign, and hopefully we can keep MSTY on the upside of that MA200. Now, just to really bring it on home, let's take a look at MSTR, as you'll see a lot of similarities. And here we are on MSTR, and you can see there on Friday we were sitting right there on that MA200, and then today we broke above it, stayed above it for the whole day. That's great. Now, I prefer that to be a green candle, but the fact that it is still above it, I'll take it. So we do have some red volume for the day, but that momentum here, look at this, building up. That's a great sign as well. And you can see we are having a bit of an uptrend in the last few days, right? Now this thing has been not only just moving up, but it's been jumping, right? It's like leapfrog here. I mean, you know, we start here, we jump up to 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 here, right? It's like leapfrog. It's not necessarily just trending up. It is just jumping. Love to see it, but I hope that doesn't affect our distributions for MSTY too much. But I'll definitely take this over MSTR going down, right? So I'll take the ups and to help MSTY move on up as well versus MSTR coming down, bringing MSTY down with it. But I love that the fact that we do have good separation on that MACD and it is still pointing up. That is great. So I'm super happy about this, and therefore I am happy about where MSTY is going as well. But I can't stress enough, that does not mean that MSTR or MSTY will continue to move on up. We could be hitting the top and moving back down. So please do not take any of this as financial advice. Do your own research before you buy into any of these stocks or ETFs. But of course, why is MSTR moving up? I think we know why. Look at Bitcoin. Oh my goodness. Is it on a tear or what? Since the 1st of October, this thing has just been on a rocket ship. It opened at 114.2K, and now we're sitting at 124.9K. And guess what? Looky, looky. We also hit a new all-time high today at 126.2K. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now over here we had that high of about 124.5, but we had already broke that one. We broke it on, I believe it was Sunday here, as we hit 125.5K, but Monday we took it another step up to 126.2. I tell you, Bitcoin has just been on fire, and therefore that is why MSTR is moving up, and of course our MSTY is moving up. Now we've got a few weeks before we get a distribution on MSTY, so hopefully with all this moving up, I hope we still get a very good distribution. I'm hoping for over $1, and remember, I only need $1.11 before I get my MSTY paid off, so if we get more than that, I am just going to be excited. So I think I'm going to end it right there on a happy note. The fact that I'm hoping MSTY in a few weeks pays us a very nice distribution and I get it paid off. It's like getting my house paid off. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button too. It does help the channel and it's much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.